5 o'clock somewhere, folks, aka here, Pacific time.
RIP to the legend Jimmy Buffett.
Oh yeah.
That's where that comes from. So
That's true, that's true.
shout out to the legend himself, Jimmy Buffett.
Anyway, happy Tuesday, folks. You know what time it is. It is Dork Discourse time. Anytime I try to be official and have an actual introduction that's not just me fumbling for the mute button being like, hey guys, it's Dork Discourse Tuesday, everybody, and we have a very exciting episode tonight because we finally don't have to be grasping for topics. We finally have some stuff that we can be talking about that is relevant to the Star Wars universe, to the Avatar: The Last Airbender universe. We have 2 shows coming out back-to-back days this week. Bad Batch coming out tonight, I believe midnight Pacific time. We're back to that unfortunate release hour. I don't know why we're reverting back to that. Maybe because Bad Batch was always released at midnight Pacific time. And Avatar dropping the very next day. Well, not very next day, but Thursday. Thursday, Avatar is dropping, and that will be interesting. Because if I'm not mistaken, unless Netflix has indicated otherwise, I do believe all 8 episodes in typical Netflix fashion will be dropping at once. That's usually how they do it. They do it the right way, according to Tom. They release the entire piece in one unit, the way it is meant to be ingested, versus waiting week to week. So
Viewer preferred. I feel like that's the method that gives the viewer the best experience versus
I don't disagree.
From a financial perspective, from a shareholder perspective, week by week over multiple weeks makes the most perspective.
Yes,
that's my take.
It'll be interesting because I don't actually even know if I've ever. The rush to watch will be interesting because what's nice about the releasing of an episode weekly is that everybody has a chance to watch it, you know, throughout the week. Obviously, no one is safe from spoilers. The internet, I feel like the threshold for spoilers following an episode in the Star Wars community, at least, has just absolutely dwindled. There is no threshold anymore. People post pretty immediately after the episodes drop and start spoiling and discussing things. But there's at least that nice sense of community online where people like share and discuss afterwards. It feels like book club, but for TV episodes. Versus the Netflix one, this will be interesting because there is more of a rush then to watch everything if it is being all released simultaneously. There is definitely more of a pressure to try to watch it all, binge it, ingest it as soon as you possibly can, and then everybody's going to be watching at different intervals, so it might be harder to talk about the show online content-wise, but at least we know Bad Batch.
Dork Discourse next week is going to be full-blown Avatar breakdown.
It shall be.
We're going to watch the whole thing. Pretty sure most people here who are interested in the show are going to have watched the whole thing.
That's true.
Over the span of one weekend.
Dropping it on a Thursday is smart so that people have the weekend to continue. Have you seen the behind the scenes video of the live action Avatar series called Bringing the World to Life? It's really good. I've actually not... I mean, we've watched a lot of interviews and whatnot and premiere and kind of press promo stuff with the cast that they've been releasing, which, might I say, shout out to whoever at Netflix. I don't think I've ever seen in this much marketing, this level of marketing, which you could almost debate is not even necessary because they're already coming into this with a built-in fan base for this universe, this series, this show. I'd say it's safe to say out of maybe every Netflix series, this one is most confidently coming with a huge pre-existing fan base, but they still, in spite of that, really have been pumping out, as you said, Lord Fowl. They're already showing so many behind the scenes, so many cast and crew interviews, promotional. They dropped another trailer today, like T-minus 48 hours. I feel like that's unheard of. Unless you're Star Wars and that's your first trailer being dropped. No shade, but literally that's something that the Star Wars marketing team would do, but that would literally be the first trailer versus there have been so many other snippets that they're releasing and one additional final trailer today, T-minus 48 hours out. So I've not seen that one. I'm actually trying to not watch too many of them because I feel like it's almost starting to verge on too many sneak peeks and snippets have been released, little glimpses of the show, each character kind of getting a little bit, I don't know what you would call it. I'm seeing a lot of little 30-second clips going around on Twitter, so I've tried to actually abstain from watching too many of them. So no, I've not seen the one you're referring to. I will be watching with you when the breakdowns or reactions arrive. Yes, I think I've not actually ever done reactions to Bad Batch, but I think that's going to be a first. Oh, we've got some actually member milestones, and this reminds me, we'll get to Charlie's, but I don't think Joshua is here with us now.
Push the...
Oh, yeah, true. Could have done that. I don't think Josh is here, but he chimed in the early gang, member for 29 months. Holy shnikes, on the master level. Josh, sending this to you through the force in spirit. Thank you so much, my friend, if you come back and rewatch this. Hey, Kat, won't make it to the stream. I am excited about Bad Batch. It might be my second favorite Star Wars show after Rebels. Some of the best stories have been told in animation. I agree with that 1000%. Take care.
Yeah.
You too, Josh. You know we love you. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one, hopefully. And from Charlie, member for 29 months as well. Holy shnikes. You guys, about to be 30 months on the master level. Another milestone. Thanks for my print. Yes, I just got the notification today that it arrived. Although I'm surprised that it took so long to get to you, Charlie. But better late than never.
Wait, it just got there today?
It just got there today. Yeah.
It's
I don't know why.
supposed to get there on Saturday.
I know, I don't know why. But thanks for you and Tom for everything. Love you both. Need a print of the Cat versus Communist Batman. McBot's a crossover. Oh my goodness. Charlie, you know we love you as well. Enjoy your new print, my friend. And thank you as always for the support. You are always like one of the very first ones to buy one. Means the world to me. Julian, member for 25 months. Let's go. On the master level. Hi, Kat. Hi, Tom. I thought I'd let you know the Darth Maul pendant is black rhodium over sterling silver and red enamel with 1.5 carat. What? Black diamond? What the frick? Hope you guys enjoy it. You deserve it for a Star Wars. Julian! Oh my shnikes. First off.
Where is that thing? Where is it?
I have it safe in my room right now.
Because I don't think I've actually seen it in person.
No, I can't stop looking at it.
You just opened it and then hid it away. And
I was like, I need to keep this safe. I need to keep this safe. No, it's absolutely incredible. What you didn't see was the 50 other additional minutes of just staring at it that I had to edit out of my unboxing video. Otherwise, it would have been too boring for y'all to watch, but my mind was absolutely blown. Julian, thank you so much. That was so incredibly kind of you.
Yeah.
You guys know you never have to do any of that. And I'm repping Sal's. We're repping the Water Tribe today, folks. I debated wearing the hood for the entirety of it, but that kind of de-ages me. I look like a 12-year-old, so I'm not going to do that for the whole thing. But we're still repping Water Tribe, so... I wanted to reflect on Bad Batch a little bit.
Hold on. We're going to take a quick sponsorship break. From Catherine LaSalle Art Division of Catherine LaSalle Industries, LLC here. So Charlie mentioned the print. Those who are Avatar fans, building up to the release of the Netflix series later in this week. Catherine here is holding up a actual print.
Yes, this is what it would look like.
So
that's why it's shiny.
This is exactly what it looks like. It's got a nice gloss finish to it.
Comes with a signature.
Yep, signed, and a nice, potentially handwritten note from Kat herself. So for those who are interested,
shameless
Avatar artwork, CatherineSal.com, as shown on the screen there.
Yep.
Go ahead and check out the prints. The original is
hanging in our
back
backdrop.
on the wall behind Catherine's head, right next to the blue saber there. Right there. That is the original piece of art.
But hey, that one's on the wall. That one's open if somebody wants to make an offer. Just saying.
So
anyway, yes. Shameless plug.
Zuko.
Shameless little art plug, but who was it?
Vanished Prince is up on CatherineSal.com.
I think it was Stanley's who gave me the idea. I was going to do Aang next, but I might have to put him on the back burner because Stanley's, I think it was you, gave me the inspiration to do Azula next. And I was like, I don't know why I didn't think of that myself.
I think Lord Fowl said something about Azula as well.
Oh, so was it Lord Fowl?
People were
maybe forgive me, correct me.
Planting the Azula seed, which would be which would be excellent.
Dan, what was your question? Sorry, did it come in the early? We'll get to Dan's queue and then we will dive right in. Can I get you guys to react to the fan film? To my fan film, sweet gosh, I can't speak. The Legend of Dune Ra. Oh my gosh, send me the link, which you might have actually already I think you did. Oh my gosh, Dan, wait, I think you did. I'm gonna dig in my email. I swear I'll find it. I'm sorry, shoot. Oh my god, you sent me an email, I think, forever ago, and I didn't get to it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't hate me. I will go digging through my archives though. I will find it. I will find it. Don't worry. Oh, if that was the question, I'm assuming that is the question you were referencing. If there was another one, please retype it. But yes, I will dig back through my email and find it. I swear, because I believe you have sent it to me and I've just been god awful. Apologies, my friend. Apologies. I would definitely like to check it out. Thank you for sharing it. And also feel free to plug it here, drop the link so everyone can go and check it out. But yes, without further ado, we have 2 premieres coming out this week, folks. I think I want to discuss Bad Batch first because that is what I freshly rewatched a little bit last night. Tom, maybe not so much. But actually no, I wanted to bring up, let's shoot over. Sometimes I try to have some organization here. So let's shoot over. We're gonna take a look at this Screen Rant article. The Bad Batch Season 3 reviews promise a chilling Star Wars story that binds the entire saga together. First reviews of Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 3 promise an exciting conclusion to Clone Force 99's tale, one packed with Star Wars Easter eggs. Written by Thomas Bacon. What an incredible name. This came out about 8 days ago. And this is actually something that is like music to my ears. Critics praise the maturity and smart connections to the wider Star Wars saga in the Bad Batch season. First 8 episodes are described as phenomenal, with a focus on an overarching plot that ties the entire saga together. Viewers can expect high stakes, stunning visuals, intense action, and surprises like Easter eggs and cameos in this epic ride of a season. So, if that doesn't get you hype, I don't know what does, but that is exactly what I want to be hearing going into this season, because you guys know, if you watch Evil Ewok, the podcast that I do with Zach and Alex, you'll know that a genuine criticism of mine, which you guys know I do try to keep everything respectful, with an air of respect, but I'd say my biggest critique of the Bad Batch has been feeling like there hasn't been necessarily so much of an overarching plot. And I know people have gone at each other's throats about this. There's been so much debate, fierce debate over this show, whether it needs an overarching plot, whether it should just be fun, side quest episodes, fun type of Saturday morning cartoon vibe, not everything has to contribute to an overarching storyline, not everything has to be mature and high stakes. I know that's like a huge criticism that fans in the Star Wars fandom especially face when they express that they want something to be more mature and kind of have a through line, have some continuity, have like a continuous story that it feels like we're working towards.
Maturity and continuity.
Well,
you can have continuity.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And it doesn't have to be mature themes.
This is true. But even with the just kind of request for a little more continuity, I know a lot of Bad Batch defenders come at each other for that and question, well, why? It doesn't need... All I'm saying is, that has just been my only... Because I do really enjoy this show, and I was rewatching some of the more pivotal episodes from Season 2 last night, because I really need a refresher, and I almost was, like, taken aback by how much... I rewatched The Outpost, and I rewatched the Coruscant arc with Senator Chuchi, where Palpatine eventually makes his appearance in the Senate, and kind of frames Rampart and whatnot, before arresting him for the destruction of Camino and Topeka City and whatnot. And I was just kind of blown away, because I hadn't actually watched those episodes since they came out this time last year, literally, and I almost forgot how incredible they were. Like, they actually blew me away. Standalone episodes, they're incredible, and I forgot how amazing they were.
Yeah.
Like, I've been sleeping on them. So if that is, and I would say those episodes are more, they contribute to the character development and Crosshair's overarching story. They contribute to the world building at hand here with Coruscant and the Senate and current political climate right now. And just that cameo from Palpatine. Unfortunately, you were asleep for it. That's like your one favorite moment from
that's the best moment of the whole show, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Palpatine's Senate speech is the best moment of the entirety of the Bad Batch.
Mm-hmm. The whole series.
The whole show. I think
it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It is. And the way that his appearance and the way it was built up with him not appearing in the Senate and Masamita is playing pretend whatnot going on, and yeah, I mean the whole build up and his whole speech and everything that's going on, perfection. So good.
And it's so incredible because it had some of the deepest world building in terms of this political environment that we've gotten in the Bad Batch, this kind of fresh off of Order 66, how all the senators are feeling, some of their own skepticism kind of starting to rumble. And just even in just like a 15-second introduction, as the room goes silent and you see everybody simultaneously crap their pants and just look at each other with straight fear of God shooting down their spine as Palpatine makes his entrance into the Senate. That alone, there were no words. No words. Nobody was even speaking. It was just exchanges of fearful looks as Palpatine rose onto his podium. And it was just still so perfectly conveyed exactly the questions I've had about this time period. How does everyone even feel about him? Your new not even Chancellor, your new Emperor. Your new Emperor.
Emperor Sheev.
You know, what's the vibe? What is the vibe? Especially since he, as they, you know, explained, had been so absent from Senate proceedings and kind of had taken a backseat. So, but yeah, watching the Mayday episode, just so, and I would say, I would argue those are some of the more mature arcs in the second season. So if we are going to be tapping more into that, granted, when Star Wars gets more mature, it tends to happen when things take a turn for the worse, or when tragedy ensues.
Which is awesome. Which is great. It's incredible. It's, you know, you're in the thick of it. You know you're in the turning point, the deep conflict, which is why Revenge of the Sith is so heralded by the people who love it. Myself certainly included in that group. Because it's tragic. It's a tragedy. It's the complete collapse of the entire political system and the entire galaxy. It's the utter collapse, and at the same time, it's the bad guys win. They totally win. They won. Palpatine's quest for the first 3 movies of the Star Wars saga was to go in and take power and claim victory for himself as the most powerful dark side wielder in history. And it works. He does it. He slaughters all of his opponents in one swift strike and causes complete and utter chaos and destruction and decimation of the light side of the Force.
Anyway.
And it is awesome. It is fantastic. It leaves you so hopeless and sad. And every single time you watch it, you're like, how did this happen? How did this end up this way? And it's still like unbelievable that it happened, which is why it makes the movie so good.
Yeah. Well, the question I've been begging of this 3rd season here of the Bad Batch has been, I think, my biggest curiosity. Real quick. Alex, has Tom changed his name to Amanda yet? Not yet.
I submitted the paperwork. I'm still waiting to hear back. So, we'll
you know
see.
how it is.
Yeah,
you know how it is.
Still waiting on that. But it's in work. Paperwork's been submitted.
We need to get a white dog next, and then the trifecta will be complete. Anyways, my biggest question going into the 3rd season of The Bad Batch has been, is this going to leave off on a joyful, hopeful, optimistic tone, which surely all of Star Wars kind of always does.
No.
With the exception of Clone Wars seasons. Haven't that ended off on the worst possible?
It's not.
In the gutter of tragic tone.
I don't think it does leave off.
You don't think this show is going to?
No, I think it leaves off some tragedy.
Yeah?
Yep. It's going to be a tragic ending. And
well,
it's fitting for the time period. It's sign of the times. Has to be tragedy.
Hearing the news that it's taking a more mature tone this season compared to, I think The Bad Batch has had the biggest spectrum, I guess, in line with the Clone Wars, because there are lots of lighthearted, not necessarily super consequential episodes of the Clone Wars, balanced with some of the most serious, intense shiz in all of the Star Wars canon. So, but Bad Batch has definitely fallen in line, and I would venture to say it has some even more fun, innocent, youthful themes because it's led by Omega, and a lot of it is through her POV and kind of her innocence. So,
talking about Omega.
What are you about to say? What the flip? What are you about to say? What? No effing way. They would not. They would not. What?
She's toast.
Why?
Omega is toast.
What makes you think that, other than the fact that, yes, she, as a character, unless her identity has changed, is absent from
Okay.
the rest of Star Wars
Not
as we know it.
toast. Self-sacrifice.
What?
I could see her sacrificing herself for the survival of the Bad Batch.
What? She's a child.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Explain where
That's
this
what I
is coming from.
We're not going to give context about Alex's super chat there.
I don't know if
Moving
it's for mine to give. Everyone knows Alex's girl Amanda. So both Alex and Zach. I don't know. Am I allowed to share this? I don't know. If Zach's
Of the
respecting
3
his own
evil
privacy.
Ewok crew, significant others, 2 of them are Amanda. I'm not one of the 2. So that's what that is. To make the trifecta of evil Ewok
And
universe
both
collide.
Alex and Amanda and Zach all own white dogs. So we have some work to do.
The paperwork has to go through
Yeah.
first, then we can worry about the
We
dog.
gotta do some official proceedings with Tom's
Yes.
official name change.
But anyway. Sorry to
Why does she
diverge.
Why would she sacrifice
think-
herself?
I think that it makes the most sense. We now know where the last season left off, that she has a sister who's involved with the Imperial top secret cloning project under the direct order of Sheev, and they are related. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
If they're
And she's now-
sisters.
Captive. So we know the Bad Batch is going to get to Tantus and try and rescue her, right? We know.
But
that's
we
gonna
have
happen.
seen from the trailers that she and Crosshair seemingly break out.
Correct. And you know what they built up? Is that at the end of season 1, Omega and Crosshair have that nice moment of her trying to talk to him, get through to him on a one-on-one fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So what will be it's one of 2 things. They could spin it where Crosshair sacrifices himself to save Omega and the Bad Batch in their escape of Tantus.
That feels a little predictable.
You know what's not predictable? Omega sacrificing herself to save Crosshair and the Bad Batch, and they're reunited.
That's off. That's tragic. They would
What's
never
better,
do that.
that or Vader slaughtering all of them and none of them live?
They would never do. I mean, that would
Mhm.
be so depressing. They wouldn't do
But it would be
that.
so uplifting and powerful. She fulfilled her purpose. She is freeing the Bad Batch of their fatherly roles in a way that she is sacrificing herself for the greater good of the galaxy and the greater good of her friends and her fatherly figures for the betterment of her crew. How she would be in the position where she sacrifices herself. I mean, they spent the whole show saying like how she's not to be messed with, how she can stand on her own. She has her own little solo missions where she ends up saving the group. So
That's true. She actually does step up to save them quite a lot. And, you know, she feels things very, very deeply. I think they rewatch her purpose is to die. Stop! In rewatching the Coruscant arc, specifically when Echo parts ways with them, and unbeknownst to her, he teams up with Rex, and that's their last goodbye. Granted, everybody else in the crew seemingly knew, except for her. That was like sprung on her in the moment. So she was very taken aback, very shocked, and very much internalized that and felt that and expressed a lot of sadness at that. So she does feel very, very deeply for all of them. They're all kind of her like parental figures and whatnot. And with following, you know, Tech's sacrifice, you know, he got very close to her in season 2 as well. And they kind of, you know, that would never happen. That's never going to happen. Granted, though, I feel like there does have to be some sort of closure or some explanation that alludes to where they go, what they do, if they change their identities.
Yeah.
However, to explain, not that we're owed an explanation, but it always begs the question when you meet new pivotal characters back in the timeline, it's inevitable that people are going to ask, where was XYZ, where was so-and-so during the sequels?
Yeah.
And it's not like everybody has to be involved in the sequels or the larger story, but...
She could sacrifice herself in a way where she's not dead, where she, like, holds them back and they keep her captive, and then we see her and that she and her clone sister
Omega
are the
is
reason
Snoke.
that Palpatine is actually able to come back, and their cloning is successful because Omega stays behind. The Bad Batch flee, and they end up exploiting her. And it's revealed that really she and her DNA and why she's so special is because she was ultimately the missing piece to get Palpatine's cloning project to be a success. And so she's alive. She doesn't die. She lets her friends and crew live. But she ends up being an experiment.
That would be awful. Do you want to address this?
That's worse. I think that's worse.
That is worse.
Her just dying. So
why are you thinking of this?
That could probably be more likely because clearly they're setting up to be her to be an important pivotal role in the cloning project. So yeah, why would they kill her? That goes back to that Grogu theory of way back when, before we got Mando season 3 and the reveal that Kelleran Beck saves Grogu. That theory that we had postulated on this show of Grogu being taken captive by Palpatine as a prime experiment subject for his cloning project. And then he would end up escaping Mount Tantus with the Bad Batch or somehow, and that's how he leaves the clutches of, leaves the temple, then leaves the clutches of Palpatine for his experimentation, and then ends up 25, 30 years, whatever it is later in Mandalorian, where he's in the hands of the bounty hunters. But anyway, Julian, thank you for that super chat. Tom, what's your opinion on Elon Musk buying Disney, and is it a good thing to fix Star Wars, maybe bring back some canon? I think the reason that Elon is interested in Disney is a much wider net than just Star Wars. I think that his concern is with the his opinion of politics being too intertwined with Disney's decision making and their DEI stuff that's going on, which is why he has interest. How that would necessarily benefit Star Wars in particular, it's tough to say. I think that in Star Wars in particular, I think for the most part, I think a lot of the decisions that have been made in the stories don't necessarily tie to political views, but I think ties to just what's in the best interest of the shareholders and financially what makes the most sense. In particular, when you look at the slate of movies, with the exception of Rogue One. So I think with the way Lucasfilm is changing currently, it seems like, with Dave Filoni's rise into creative control of basically overseeing everything, they are, I feel, making the effort to switch gears and really start to push back on any type of corporate oversight that would be critiquing the stories or making decisions in the story that they think, based on whatever data they have, is going to actually improve the financial performance. Like I think with the Lucasfilm leadership that has been put in place based on the stories we've gotten recently, I think there's been pushback on, executive oversight and interference in what stories they're trying to tell with, versus I think Force Awakens is a prime example of, like, we can all agree that the general plot of Force Awakens is incredibly similar to the first Star Wars movie ever created.
You can't not bring up the sequels, can you?
I'm answering the super chat. I'm giving a thorough answer to Julian's super chat. And so the original, I think that's a very, like, what you're going to put a ton of money into this project. It's going to be the first Star Wars thing that's come out since 2008. Is that when the Clone Wars movie came out? But the first, like, the last actual thing, last live action project was Revenge of the Sith in 2005. You're going to put all this money and effort into this movie, and it's going to be the resurgence of Star Wars. If you're thinking about from a financial perspective, just take what worked before and tweak it a little bit, and then bam, you've got instant success. Versus, let's create this entire new story that just builds off of the legacy, and it's a new type of plot thread. From a financial perspective, that's a riskier decision. So, so anyway, long story short, Julian, I think it's very tough to say if Elon's belief of where Disney should go, how that differs from Bob Iger's belief of where Disney should go. Um, it's I think it's tough to say at this point. I think um, obviously it's easier for an outsider to judge the performance of a company when they're not actually involved in directly making the decisions on a daily basis. So I think it is tough to say how things would be different under Elon's leadership, specifically when talking about Star Wars.
Frankly, not that you asked my opinion, I look at what he's done to Twitter. That's all you have to. That's all you know. That's all you have to say.
Twitter's performance, the numbers are higher
Because
more viewers.
God awful people have infiltrated that app because he's eradicated any sort of. We don't have to go into this. He's eradicated any sort of measure to keep civility on that app, and it's become just a cesspool of the worst possible people in the human population. I don't know why I'm still on there. I'm still on there sifting through. You have to sift through all of the muck to get to the stuff you actually want these days. You have to sift through the worst of humanity on that app because there are zero regulations anymore.
You know that probably the majority of people watching are active users on that app. So
I'm on it too. I'm on Twitter too.
You are.
I just said
stereotyping and generalizing your audience.
I just said that I'm still on that app because there is still stuff on there that I like. The Star Wars community and fandom is still on there. All I'm saying is you have to dig through a lot more muck. I know anybody on this channel is not in the category of human being that I'm referring to. The racist, misogynist, sexist, god-awful people from their... I'm not even gonna... Julian, sorry, I hijacked that, but I don't want to talk about Elon Musk anymore. I'm sorry. Let's talk about things that I don't think Elon even cares about. Bad Batch, Avatar. Oh, Sal, I did just get your print. I did just get your print order. Thank you so much.
Sal, that's awesome.
Thank you so much. Literally got the live update here. Thank you, my friend. No, you guys know I don't feel like you are all... Don't put words in my mouth. That you are all the worst of humanity. You guys know.
You said the words.
You guys know who I'm referring to when I say those things. And it's not you guys. It's those cretins, the trolls of the internet, who I've probably blocked all of them from this channel as much as I possibly can. So, never have, never will. Got better things to do, says Charlie in regards to Twitter. Yes, I know whenever I mention that I'm even still on that app, so many of you guys express disdain and beg me to leave, and I'm tempted day by day. Every day, I'm more tempted, but I still stay on so that we can... I love to go on there after I watch Star Wars episodes and immediately see what everyone else is feeling, especially now that spoiler warnings don't even exist anymore. You know, the timeline, the acceptable time period of what's a proper window, 24 hours before you start sharing things is gone.
Yeah. Especially
when it was Ahsoka and Anakin came on. The second I went back on Twitter after that episode, it was just his face all over that place. Yes. Oh, frick, I forgot. We got, we had a Bird Church, a member for 14 months. Thank you so much, my friend. Crosshair is my fave character, so I'm convinced that he will sacrifice himself for Omega / the Bad Batch, a bittersweet ending similar to Clone Wars Season 7. Yeah, let's get back to that. So you are certain that you think this season is going to end in grim, absolute tragedy?
Yeah. Yes. And yeah, Birdchurch's right. I think Crosshair, I think they're setting up the obvious answer to be Crosshair to actually come to his senses and sacrifice himself for Omega and the squad. So I think that's plausible. Bittersweet ending, I think, is the term for that, not necessarily tragedy. I think the more tragic ending is, yeah, Crosshair comes to his senses. He tries to sacrifice himself, but then Omega says, no, this is my place here. I need to be here. You go be with your true warrior Clone Force 99 buddies. And then they escape, and Omega's place is in Tantus or wherever.
This would never happen.
For further experimentation.
This would never happen. That would never... No, there's no way. That's the equivalent of if they were to kill off Grogu. She's a child! She's a child! I don't know. I don't even know how I feel like, can they top I mean, the most tragic, grim thing that has happened in Star Wars is Order 66, and I thought it couldn't get any worse, but then Clone Wars final season, last 4 episodes, proved that it could very much get worse, and I was crying in fetal position. So, I don't know if I don't know if this could even top, because what is still to come other than possibly the demise of many of the clones that we know and love. If there is an attempt at an uprising, although I don't know if there's necessarily even time for that in this season, but if they are dialing up the maturity factor and focusing on an overarching plot, a lot of what they've tapped into in this time period is what is to come, the fate of the clones, as they're getting kind of just completely tossed aside like yesterday's trash, for lack of a better term, but that's actually how they're being viewed, especially that episode, The Outpost. Rewatching it, just a visceral. I forgot how juicy that moment is when
So
Crosshair snaps into it and he is just overtaken by absolute rage and he completely shoots that lieutenant. It was so satisfying. But highlights, I mean, I don't know if he was necessarily even an extreme example of the mindset towards clones. You know, he just had the absolute worst treatment towards them, referring to them as like used, spoiled goods. I forget. He just had the absolute worst quips. But
he was the Pon Krell of Bad Batch.
Yeah,
basically.
But I don't know if he is alone in that. I don't know. Tom's ending would explain why we haven't seen an adult Omega yet. That is the biggest thing.
Not necessarily saying that she dies, but a sacrifice can mean imprisonment. So she might not die. She could just sacrifice herself and let them escape, but then she gets captured. She's imprisoned. She's treated as a experimental subject for the cloning project. Seems like that is a plausible option. I don't know what's worse, to keep her in captivity for her entire life, to be used as a experiment, or to have a nice, fulfilling, self-sacrificial death. For the betterment of her friends.
There are worse things than death. Grand Inquisitor, heck yes, Stanley's most chilling line in all of Star Wars. Julian, you did not have to super chat another. Thank you so much, my friend. Sorry, I forgot to ask your opinion. No, it's okay, because my opinion is not super high when it comes to somebody like Elon purchasing Disney right now. I just want Star Wars to be Star Wars again, the way George Lucas had it, just movies for the fans. No, it's definitely, and there has been that buzz going around. Allegedly, it was D. Bradley Baker who mentioned that upon the conclusion of the Bad Batch, this is kind of marking the end of a legacy of George Lucas. This is maybe like the last thing that he had a hand in, the last thing that was kind of on his plans, his radar. I didn't look too much into it because frankly that thought just makes me sad. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think George Lucas is always, it's his legacy. It's, yeah, he's not necessarily hands-on with it anymore, but it's his legacy. No matter who's in charge, you know, everybody still reveres and looks up to and praises George Lucas. I don't think that has died, and if anything, it has since ramped up following, you know, divided reception to a lot of what Disney has produced with Star Wars following his, you know, sale to them. So I think if anything, the love and adoration for him is surged when it comes to him. So, you know, he might not ever have a hands-on role ever again, but I still feel like the people he's appointed, his own Padawan, Dave Filoni, you know, are in positions now where they can have a say and they can have creative, you know, freedom to explore that, coming in with everything that they've learned from him. So
yeah, I think that's key, creative freedom. So whether Bob Iger is the CEO of Disney or Elon Musk is the CEO of Disney, of whoever it is needs to allow the creatives creative freedom with minimal corporate financial interjection into the products. Obviously, everything needs a budget. Obviously, everything needs a release schedule. And obviously, when you have a public company like Disney versus pre-Disney, a private company like Lucasfilm, there are financial margins that have to be hit based on quarterly results and earnings per share, because it's a public company. So public company means it's owned by the public, and if the vast public is not happy, then company value goes down. Versus a private company, now we're getting into a Econ 101 lesson here. Private company with George Lucas owned it himself. It's all about, it's complete creative control and corporate control from one person up top. So they could say, I don't want to make any money. I just want to put a bunch of money into this thing with no expectation of return of profit. And it's purely just, I want to do whatever I want for the greatest story. And if profit comes, great. If not, then so be it. So the prequels are, you know, him getting his story out the exact way he wants it. And obviously it's Star Wars. Anything with the Star Wars brand is going to have some type of financial results. So if the trick and the key that I think is leading to the organizational structure changes within Lucasfilm is the reality that, okay, there's other factors that come into play when trying to tell these stories and create these stories. And there are other requirements, other variables that have to go into their decision making. So if they can, I think with the restructuring and everything they're doing, it's going in the right direction, where the projects we're getting, we see that we're getting unique stories. I don't think that, at least I personally, and if you look at, is the story unique or not? Like over all the Disney Plus shows that we've gotten, like, I think that's true. I think overall, if you said, hey, the stories we're getting, is it unique? Is it a new story? Like, is it something that we necessarily haven't really seen before in terms of plot and stuff? I think the vast majority would say yes. I think where people complain is the through line, the connectivity, and then also the volume and the production value. I feel like those are the major, just looking at Star Wars in particular, I feel like those are the major critiques. So where they're going, they can maximize the budget that they're given to focus on the story at hand and letting the creative story come together, and then the budget comes in with a little more belief that the project's going to be successful and it's going to resonate. And I think that's the secret sauce. And that can happen with Bob Iger. That can happen with Elon. That's so many levels removed from the actual creators telling the story. And so if the leader of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, can be the bridge between Disney executives and Lucasfilm storytellers to say, hey, here's the projects we have, give us the budget to get these projects. And she can push back on, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Don't intervene in the creative process. Let the people do their jobs. I think that's what needs to happen. Anyway.
Putting my foot down, no more corporate talk for the rest of this episode.
Yes.
The rest of this episode.
Yes.
We have too many other things, exciting things happening right now. All right, well, I think we've exhausted Bad Batch. Shall we segue to Avatar? I mean, I feel like I still want to talk. There's more.
Was that the whole super chat?
There's not much to say in the way of Avatar yet. Instead of, there's already a lot with, as I mentioned, I almost wonder if they're shooting themselves in the foot, or if it's, if it's half and half, generating hype whilst generating skepticism that maybe wasn't even present. But with all of the promo that they've really been churning out from Netflix Avatar, they're on top of it. Star Wars needs to take a page out of their book. I'm sorry. They've really been churning out quite a lot. Again, generating hype that necessarily didn't even need to be. It was already there. They already have the pre-existing fan base. Everyone's going to be watching this. But I almost wonder, as I've said, I haven't even been really watching all of these promotional clips that they've been sharing, because there has been lots of discussion. The more you share preemptively, the more you give people to dissect and pick apart and critique and just point out their minor qualms, even if it's just a 15-second clip. But I know that there's been already some kind of mixed reviews to even just that, even the media that they've already shared from the show, which is why I was shocked that they even released another trailer today. That feels unheard of. I'm a little bit like, you didn't have to do that. But I think going into the show, I think there's still a lot of hype. I think we're all still excited, and I think the curiosity to just see how this is going to look and play out is still there. And I think the biggest realization I think that many of us have come to, especially you and I watching a lot of the behind the scenes looks and interviews with the cast and crew, hearing more about the production process and their approach to it, coming in with that pressure of having to live up to the hype of the animated series. I think the biggest thing I've taken away is that I have to eradicate the expectation that this is going to be as amazing, as epic, as perfect. Not saying that it won't be, but just the expectation that it's got to be on a similar page when really it's an entirely different thing. Live action is an entirely different media. You know, having human beings in the room acting with one another is an entirely different arena when it comes to just being able to actually capture that, like, human emotion, which that's not to say the animated series doesn't do. The animated series
does plenty of that.
The characters, yeah, I feel more things for some of those characters than I do for actual live action things. So that is not to say that the animated series lacks human emotion and connection and just characters that you care about so deeply. But I think that's been the biggest thing for me, accepting that this is going to be inherently different no matter what, because it's a different media. It's an entirely different challenge. It's an entirely different bear having to accomplish a lot of what we see in animation, in live action. It's just going to be inherently different, which I think is just what I have to accept as I go into the show and just get rid of all of the preconceived things that I have and adore about the animation and just let the live action be its own thing. You know, people are already kind of critiquing. I mean, I know I've shown you some clips and been like, what do you think this looks like? You know, I'm guilty of it too. Looking at and overanalyzing some of these clips and things that they've put out. And I feel like I have to just wait and see it all in its entirety. Thoughts?
I am on the complete opposite side.
What? Go figure.
I think that everything we've seen so far has no inclination of how good the show is going to be or not.
You mean it's not an indicator?
No, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Bending, VFX. They've basically just been showing off the VFX.
Yeah.
And the CG.
Well, the bending is rightfully so the biggest thing they probably want to quell people's skepticism about. Live action bending, the animated bending is tough to beat, so that makes sense.
But think about the original Avatar live action attempt. It was a lot more than just the VFX that people critique about that film. Total change of character and character traits and literally character names and pronunciation. So much was different in that adaptation that you almost couldn't even consider it the same story. So yes, we've seen dialogue and we've seen shots that are familiar and lead us to believe that the show is going to touch on a lot of the same things as the animated show. But we still haven't seen it. You can't get the tone, like the tone in the dialogue and the conversations and the scenes, the way the music sets the tone. Like trailer music, yeah, sure, is one thing, but actual music in the moment as things play out, we haven't seen any of that. Like we don't know what it is.
So you're saying the show in the state that it's meant to be appreciated in, you know, it's still yet to come, because
exactly.
Trailers are kind of so not indicative of. Yeah, that's fair.
Exactly. And I think what this live action adaptation has going for it that Shyamalan's adaptation did not is that Shyamalan crammed an entire season into a 2-hour film.
It was too challenging.
Versus this Netflix show sum up all the run times for all the episodes, and it's like the length of the entire first season of the show. So they don't have to rush cramming in certain plot points from the animated show into this live action show, because with the length of the episodes, they have enough time. If they were to literally create every single moment from the animated show in live action and just run it in order, they would be able to do that. So that they don't have to worry about trying to rush things, make the audience aware of things without actually showing it, trying to cram a bunch of stuff into 2 hours to get the full context that the show has with this Netflix show, because with the 8 episode slate that they have enough time to cover literally everything from the animated show if they wanted to.
That's true.
And we know that they're probably going to get most of it and then some, because we know that there's going to be scenes in this live action show that we didn't get in animation, and new stuff, filling in stuff that we have heard about in animation show or are familiar with, like the raid of the Southern Air Temple. Like that's shots in the trailer. Like we could literally see that play out, which we basically only get like teases of and feeling it through Aang's point of view in the animated show. So yes, I still think that anyone who's make the quick judgments about the state of the bending or the VFX is jumping the gun too early, because ultimately, yes, in the Shyamalan live action adaptation, there's definitely some questionable bending moments. I think everyone's seen that shot of 6 earthbenders or whatnot moving the soccer ball sized rock very slowly across the screen. But there's a lot else that is why that live action adaptation was not successful, versus the time constraint. There's no need to rush anything from a plot perspective, a dialogue perspective, with this live action adaptation. So yeah, if the VFX aren't great, I would rather, which we've talked about this a lot for a lot of the Star Wars show, like Kenobi, for example. I know we love always talking about Kenobi. I think both of us are in agreement that the overall plot in Kenobi, like for the most part, they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. Like the only real critique that we had was from, like, why is Kenobi given a lesser budget? Granted, it's 6 episodes. Andor's like 12 episodes, so Andor's naturally probably going to have a higher budget because it's more content. But for the 6 episodes we got, based on the proposed alleged budget it got, why do some of the visuals in Kenobi seem very rushed? Like they weren't able to take their time and really focus on creating unique worlds. It's a lot of dark and gray, and granted, it's a dark story and the themes are dark, whereas Alderaan is like the light of the show. But it's purely like VFX perspective. So, versus the story was great.
Alderaan?
Alderaan! Alderaan is light.
That's what I
Alderaan.
I will say, yes.
R.I.P.
I think you guys have seen on Alex's Patreon, he willingly watched the movie with me. That was my first time. Now, I did just finally recently watch the live action M. Night Shyamalan, The Last Airbender adaptation. And I've got to say, coming into it with all the preconceived notions that I had, going into it with all the skepticism of just years of hearing the absolute just unanimous dunking on that movie, which I don't want to be mean, but it's the truth. You know, I can't dodge around the fact that it is very much unanimously disliked in our generation, specifically having grown up with the Avatar. And that came out pretty fresh after the animated series ended. It came out in 2010, I believe, and Avatar went... Did it come out during?
During what?
It was either during the run of Avatar or fresh after the animated series.
The show was after.
It was after.
The movie was after the show finished.
Yeah.
The movie was
all right, but it was pretty fresh in the timeline.
And I know exactly, because what did come out at the same time as the animated show was Avatar, Blue People, Pandora Avatar. And I remember my mom saying, "Oh, we're going to go to the movies. We're going to go see Avatar." And all of us being like, "Yes, we're going to see Avatar." And then we start watching the movie. It's like, what is this? This has nothing to do with bending and the Fire Nation. It's all these blue alien people and future humans, and they're fighting each other. What is this? Like, I remember being totally bamboozled.
How long did you go before you made the realization?
Yeah, pretty quickly after the movie started. I wasn't like, oh wait, when's it gonna be Avatar: The Last Airbender? No, I knew pretty quickly after the movie started that it wasn't gonna be that. But going into the movie, myself and my siblings were like, oh, let's go, Avatar: The Last Airbender movie. That is awesome. Let's go see it. And no, it was not. It was James Cameron's Blue Alien Avatar.
All I'm saying is, going into the M. Night Shyamalan one, with the backstory and the knowledge of just how widely disliked it is, and amongst our generation specifically, yeah, yes, it is literally, it very much is like a different universe, a different world. Doesn't even feel like, eventually by the middle of the movie, I felt like I was just kind of accepted that I was just watching a different story, because it very much had to. I think the challenges, yes, the Netflix live action doesn't have the same challenge of time constraints, having to take entirety of book 1 and shove it into an hour and 45 minutes. Already they're doing better in that regard. So that's something that I feel confidently that this is going to be an extremely faithful adaptation of the story, and especially hearing that a lot of the people involved in the production, the producers, are fans of the original show, and everyone is seemingly extremely aware. You know, people have not been shy in the press. In the press conferences or in the interviews that we have watched, people have not been shy about posing the question of, how does it feel to have all of this pressure coming in, knowing that there is this huge pre-existing fan base and they all have expectations? So I think they all feel it, they all acknowledge it and recognize it, and probably knew that from the start. That, I think, has been the biggest challenge, especially because the M. Night Shyamalan version left a poor taste in a lot of people's mouths. You know, if that version didn't even exist, I think the pressure is even higher, almost, because many people were displeased and disappointed with the original film adaptation. I don't want to be mean.
I don't think it's pressure. I think it's probably Netflix chomping at the bit. They're like, we can't possibly do worse.
Oh!
So the bar is so low.
Listen, I'm a huge M. Night Shyamalan fan, okay?
They're not taking the first cut at trying to do this. So they already have a bar, like, they
have an advantage.
They're like pole vaulting at the Olympics, and the pole vault bar is like literally 3 feet off the ground. Like, they don't even need the pole; they can just vault. Versus if there had not been a previous live action attempt, and this was the first group of people ever to take on that task, way more pressure. Way more pressure. It's been what, 15 years? Since the show came out. Show ended what, 2009? Is that right? It's like 15 years.
Something like that.
And there's not any other attempt at making a live action. This is the first one.
That's
way
true.
Expectations way higher. Pressure is way higher. But since there's already been an attempt, everyone's going into this, skeptical, and be like, well, we've been here before. People have been disappointed before. But it's not like, oh my god, this is going to be completely awesome, and then we see it, and then even if it's not great, like, oh, okay, yeah, it's you know, same story, different day. Versus, like, if there wasn't live action, it would be like, this is going to be incredible, and then any drop off or like a huge flop like that would just be more heartbreaking. Not to say that if the show is not great, that it's not going to be heartbreaking. It will be. However, I think there's a lot
lived experience to remember.
Yes, it just be a slight flavor of PTSD in some degree. But you're right. However, we literally still have the animated series to go back to and watch, and everybody can feel better.
Yeah, no, that is at the end of the day, no matter what happens, it's never going to erase anything that the original show has done. That has cemented itself in history as transcending the confines of a Nickelodeon animated series for children, because it is so much more than that. It has survived the test of time and will forever and ever and ever.
Thank you, Charlie, for immortalizing that quote. I totally came up with that on the spot, and now that I'm seeing it written down, that's pretty. I'm gonna give myself some
good words. Good words.
That's pretty.
They Netflix Avatar 2024. They do not need the poll. They can just vault. That said, though, yes, no matter what happens, neither live action rendition can erase what has already been established, already cemented in history as perfection. Julian, thank you again so much, my friend. Do a movie, a live stream, member only for Tropic Thunder. Another movie I've never seen. I've never seen it.
I've never seen Tropic Thunder.
Maybe we can do a double members only treat.
That's blackface Robert Downey Jr., right?
All right. Yes, okay. It is. But there's
I mean, I've heard it's hilarious, and I might have watched it when I was younger. I just don't remember anything about it. But I know that everyone I know who's seen it thinks it's absolutely hilarious, and so I would be very interested in watching it.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Tom for a little members only live stream watch party.
It's not
first time watching.
Not canceled in our eyes.
Oh goodness, it's not. There's reasons. There's reasons for it in the movie. I think he's like a method actor or something. His character. There's an explanation. It's more layered than that, I believe, in the actual film. But yeah, no, I think we already know casting. Very accurate, very well received. Granted, the performances are a whole other dual side of that. But just casting in general out of the gate, already I'm happy about that. Going into the live action one, not having the time constraints as we saw with the 2010 adaptation. Much more room to work with, much more room to be flexible. They just released the episode runtimes, and they're all seemingly over 40 minutes long, which is
pull that up?
Very good. I don't have it at the ready. And it was also only on Twitter, which isn't exactly... I only saw it on Twitter. It's probably... I don't know if it's been officially published out there, but we know Twitter is not the most reliable source.
Yeah, we all know how Kat feels about Twitter.
Yep. But, I think the biggest challenge just from here on out is that both renditions had to face, both the M. Night Shyamalan version and this Netflix one. The animated show is just absolute sheer perfection, and there is so much about the fundamental just core of this show and the universe and the bending and the characters and the landscapes and just the creatures, so many things that lend themselves perhaps better to animation that, again, I don't want to sound mean. I hope this doesn't come across as mean. This is nothing... I don't have anything against live action, but I'm very much just of the belief that it has to be warranted. You have to prove to me if you are going to take one of the most beloved elements of my childhood and recreate it. Like, heck yeah, I'm excited. I am excited about that. The nostalgia. Like, this is the most precious core memory from my youth. Just watching this movie with just watching this show with my brothers. Avatar. I still remember, I'll never forget. Just
going to the movie and finding out it's not.
I never went to that, no. I'll never forget the energy in our living room watching the final, the finale. That was like an event. That was like a canon event of my lifetime. So already it has the excitement and the hype going for it, the nostalgia, the fact that we're all going to be watching. And I'd say for the most part, we all want this show to do well. I don't think anybody wants this show to be received poorly or to fail due to poor visuals, which, as you said, nothing so far really from the trailers to me is indicative that it's going to look visually poor. I don't think that's going to be the case. Hope that's the case consistently going forward in the rest of the show. Another thing to consider is so many of these clips that have been going viral on Twitter, popping off that, Netflix has been releasing other little snippets and sneak peeks. So many little mini trailers here. I feel like so many people are just watching them on the 2-inch screen of their cell phones, which is not how this media is supposed to be ingested. Like, yeah, something probably looks bad because you're watching on your phone. Like, watch it where it's meant to be, your television, Like, that's the other thing, I think it's easy for somebody to see a clip on Twitter and spout that this looks like shiz, this looks awful, but don't watch on your cellular device. Go watch it in 4K on your television.
A lot of phones have 4K screens nowadays.
I know, but still, it's still only 2 inches wide.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing that I think a lot of the way this show is going to be received comes down to us as the viewers having to just eliminate all of our preconceived, all of that pressure. The pressure's there. It is. And I feel like, yeah, we should still have expectations. I'm not saying we can't demand greatness from this show. Like, frick yes. If you are going to do an adaptation of Avatar, The Last Airbender, arguably one of the most perfectly executed series of all time
Yeah.
that we were spoiled to witness when we were like 9 years old. Like, I will maybe die on that hill that the best piece of television I ever watched was as a child. Like, that's just an accomplishment in the film and television sphere to begin with. So if you are going to do an adaptation, if you are going to attempt to recreate perfection, the standards are there. I'm not saying we should strip ourselves of our standards, but I think we have to accept that no matter what, it's inevitable that it's going to just have inherent differences because live action's just an entirely different medium, and I don't think I want it to necessarily, you know, going into this, I've had so many expectations that it needs to look exactly like, feel as, like, the bending specifically, like, it has to feel as fluid and graceful as it's executed in animation, which, yes, that is going to be a huge crucial part, but again, nothing that I've seen from the trailers has led me to believe that they didn't really focus on that.
Yeah, well, 3 elements are fluid. 1 is sturdy. Earth is sturdy. Earth is not fluid. It's rocks.
All right, you know
It's
what
metal.
I'm talking about.
So, yes, the boomy shot of him earthbending, like, earthbending is not fluid. It's not liquid. It's not fire. It's not air. All of those 3 are very go with the flow, very literally fluids. They're literally fluids. Water is literally a fluid. Air is literally gas, water, which is also a fluid. And fire is energy and plasma. That's also fluid. It's all fluid dynamics. Earth is not. Earth is a solid. So the bending style for Earth is going to be much more rigid and
oh, I just heard your shoulder crack.
bending versus a lot of the...
That's true. That's true.
So in that case, it makes sense. And if we're going to take, again, the debate of all debates, the debate that will go on for all of eternity as long as humans continue to make entertainment. Visuals, story. Not even visuals, but medium, right? Animated, live action, book, audiobook, comic, graphic novel, braille writing.
What?
Inclusivity. If the story is good, whatever medium it's in, it's a good story and it's going to resonate people and it's going to carry the test of time. Versus if the VFX is, if the VFX work is not up to par with expectations, okay, sure, that might not be ideal and might upset some people. But if they get the story right and the tone is right and the way the music is paired with the story and the dialogue and the themes of the show, if they're consistent, that's ultimately what is going to make or break the success of the show. Is, how well does this story resonate with people? And the visuals are one small piece of reaching that resonance factor level with the audience.
Yeah, no, that's why the animated series for children has completely transcended just that label of a Nickelodeon television show, because the story was on steroids. It is on a completely different level, unmatched levels of just perfection and character development, and just perfectly, I don't think, I feel like it's hard nowadays that a show ends and everyone unanimously loves it. I feel like modern television series, call me out, actually, drop in the comments if there's a show that you think, recently I watched, Succession. I think that's one of the most recent shows, the series, where I thought it was perfect from start to finish and I was actually happy with the ending. A lot of series nowadays, things are prematurely canceled or they were anticipated for more seasons and then they get abruptly ended, so they have to scramble to finish things and wrap things up. Game of Thrones, literally, I think it's very, very difficult nowadays that a series from start to finish is so positively received, or that people are happy with the conclusion because of the landscape in which shows are made now, we don't even have a landscape. The landscape is, if it doesn't perform well after one season, it gets canned. Yeah. Some things get canned before the season even comes out. We're in an age now where movies aren't even getting released. They're getting shelved for whatever reasons. You know, yeah. Films that people freaking worked on and poured their heart and soul into aren't even going to see the light of day. This is the world we live in now. And so it's a shame, but it's rare that things not, if a production, if a film or a television series at this point can get made to fruition and is made in its entirety, and they make as many seasons as they want to or intended, then that's a success. That's already an accomplishment. But then if people all unanimously like the ending, like how it played out, that's already a win. So Avatar has just stood the test of time as one of the shows that is perfect from start to finish. Sal, good to see you. Thank you so much for the print order, my friend. Yep. We'll get started on it ASAP. And I saw that Sean's been trying to send a message. I got your message, I think, on Instagram as well, Sean. I got to respond. But I'm glad that it arrived safe and sound. Your piece. Yours, like, I don't know what they did. They must have sent the messenger pigeon on steroids, because it got there very soon.
Both Sean's and Charlie's were projected to get to them on Saturday. Yeah. And Sean's did, but Charlie's, for whatever reason, sorry, Charlie.
I don't know why. Yeah. Jesus, bless you.
Sorry for that, everybody else. But yeah, sorry, Charlie, that the post office was delayed in getting your print.
Yeah, apologies. So is the new Avatar good? That's the question, James. Yep. That is the question that we will find out this week. Yep. But again, I think, you know, to circle back, like, the biggest accomplishment nowadays is for a series to get fulfilled and for it to be ordered for the amount of seasons that the showrunners intend. So the worst case scenario, I don't think this will happen, because no matter what, people are going to continue watching Avatar. It has one of the largest pre-existing fan bases, and it's only going to continue to grow with this show. And I think one element that they've really tried to tackle and approach with the live action adaptation is tailoring it to the pre-existing fans who are all grown-ups now. You know, many of us are millennials, the cusp of Gen Z, you know, stuff like that. A lot of people who were watching that show as children are 30-year-olds now. So they do have the challenge of having to tailor it to an audience that was once young and now, you know, maybe wants some more mature themes. Although, I mean, you don't even need to try to manifest that or contrive that, because Avatar the story does dive into a lot of deep shit. Like, for a kid's show, yeah, does it maybe censor some things? Yes, but it still was not afraid to scratch some serious topics, you know, serious tragedy that, if anything, might appear worse in live action if they choose to, you know, for example, the absolute annihilation of the air temple and the airbenders. That was something that was pretty much excluded. You never saw it visually play out in the television series, but you can only imagine the tragedy and how absolutely horrific it must have been when you see, you know, the carnage when Aang returns and finds, like, the skeletons of everybody. Like, that's traumatic alone for a children's show. Yeah. Being left to your own imagination to only have to just conceive in your mind how mad it could have been. So if they are going to show us things like that were withheld and excluded for censorship's sake for the children's show, like, if they are going to tap into some of that, they could be raising the darkness and the stakes in this live action one. You don't have to really add much more, because there is a lot of maturity still and some darkness and really deep, serious, intense topics that they cover in the animated series. So that said, I think that the nature of the show already is tailored very much for, they don't have to worry about appealing to the child audience, but creating that balance that won't deter children, I hope, but will still satisfy the older, more mature audience who's all millennials now.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Personally, I've never heard anyone in my entire life say they don't like Avatar.
No.
I know people who have never seen it, but I've never heard anyone make any type of critique or complaint or statement of, I do not like Avatar: The Last Airbender. can confidently say not one time ever in my entire life have I ever heard anyone say that. And Birdchurch, you bring up a great point with making the Breaking Bad comparison as well.
Yes.
I've also never heard anyone make any type of complaint ever
Because
about
it's
Breaking
great.
Bad ever.
Because it's great all the way through, and it has a really satisfying ending.
Yeah. Versus a lot of the other shows you listed, we've definitely heard a lot of complaints with those properties. But yeah, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Breaking Bad, those are two in particular where like literally never heard. Yeah, sure, not everybody's seen it. Obviously, not everybody's going to see everything, but I'm just being honest. I've never heard a complaint for either of those shows at all, ever, in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, the foundation that Netflix has to take this thing, put it into live action, is there. They've got it. They've got a great source material. I mean, obviously, starting with something like that, there's risk of inevitably it's not going to be the same, right? It's all about, okay, how can we take this and enhance it, add to it, give people something new, and make it a refreshing experience to watch, which we shall see very soon. We shall see very soon. The long-awaited wait.
Daddy Josh, good to see you for popping in real quick.
Not much left to wait for.
I know, we got T-minus 48 hours.
Daddy Josh, what's going on?
Patrick says, there's no age to a good story. I'm old enough to have seen the first Star Wars in theaters, and I still watched a lot of animated series, right?
Awesome.
That's such a good point. A good story will appeal to everybody, and I think that's why Avatar is just on another level, its own playing field. The bar is so high for anything else trying to even match a fraction of how incredible that show is. It's a children's show, but it still appeals to all demographics. Just goes to show how good the writing was, which is why I'm so skeptical about this adaptation, says Yeager.
Interesting take.
No, listen, skepticism is fair, and it's warranted.
I had a dog named Yeager.
You did, that's right. Skepticism is definitely fair going into this. All I'm saying is for myself, I think I need to just clear my mind of everything I've already seen, premature discussions about it on social media, premature skepticism that's getting tossed around, the doubt that's already kind of sprinkled into the conversation surrounding this show as more and more of it has been released as, you know, an effort to build hype and tease some of those what's to come. So I need to just personally go in and free my mind. And, you know, you're the one who suggested, you know, I had expressed that I wanted to rewatch the live action. I had wanted to rewatch the animated one leading up to this, to pregame, and Tom very much discouraged that. Granted, I'm a free grown-up, I can do whatever I want, and I could have been watching it this entire time, but you make a really good point that if you watch it so fresh, right on top of watching the live action one, it could just only skew. You're just going to be reaching for comparisons the entire time, and you're not going to be able to give it a fair judgment, which is all I want to do for this adaptation. I want to go in clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. I want to go in, give it the fairest judgment I can without really trying. I mean, it's going to be inevitable. It's going to be impossible. I know I'm going to be comparing it to the live action, but at least I didn't come off of freshly rewatching the live action, you know, in preparation. But that's...
Yeah. I mean, we rewatched the entirety of Avatar, what, 3 years ago?
A couple years ago, yeah.
3 years ago-ish. So
when
it's been a while
here,
since we've watched the whole show, which makes it even better. Like, I'm pumped. And yeah, we obviously are going to know the story and the characters and whatnot and the visuals and locations in the world. But, like, every single line of dialogue, like, I can't remember every single line of dialogue. Obviously, key pieces of dialogue we'll remember. But, like, all the casual stuff, like certain jokes and whatnot, like, you don't remember that. So Netflix has, you know, if you don't watch the animated show, then yeah, it's going to be impossible to compare every single line of dialogue that Netflix spits out in their show with every single line of dialogue that was in the original show. Like, you're not going to have that in the front of your memory, which I think will help enhance the viewer experience of someone who's already familiar with the show.
Yeah.
Versus obviously the new audience. To get them hooked, it's got to have the same allure that the original animated show had in terms of its themes and its tones and the story and the world building. So, and the music. and the music. We haven't really talked about the music. You know, it's not the original composer.
But still, I think they're remaining faithful to the original score, unless that was a diversion in the trailers. But I think to finish out, do you have any poll ideas? But before that, think of it now. Other question. What are you more excited for, Bad Batch or Avatar?
Avatar.
Yeah, I think I am too. Sorry. Listen, but hearing this about Bad Batch, that it is going to be more
poll idea, actually,
mature, that the first half of the season is being praised, you know, it's being applauded as it's getting darker and more mature, and, you know, it is, I feel like I have really high hopes going into the season. At first, I was really sad because I wanted the show to keep going. I did not anticipate that it was only going to be 3 seasons. I felt like this time period specifically, and with Clone Force 99, these characters, I still feel like there's so much room for them to have played with. So when I learned that it was ending with this season, I was sad, but in a way, it puts them in the position now. We are poised for however this is going to resolve. If it's growing into a darker story, which seemingly, I mean, yes, as we know it, the clones cease to exist and are completely, you know, that gets entirely diminished. And from what we know, Clone Force 99, we don't see any of these other characters going forward in the future. That's not to say that that means they are automatically dead and non-existent anymore, but it definitely begs the question, you know, what ensues that leads to the downfall as we know it, you know, as the Stormtrooper program is coming into play and whatnot. This is a tumultuous time in the galaxy, so, you know, the best episodes of the former seasons is when they tapped into the dark stuff, which is why, like, that Coruscant arc is incredible. The Outpost is so phenomenal and heartbreaking. Like, I truly believe that Star Wars is at its best when it breaks your heart, because that's what is so incredible about this franchise, and why so many people who've never seen it, I frankly just don't even take their opinion of, oh, why do you want Star Wars? Like, if you've never seen it, you don't know. You don't know. Because when the character development is there, when your relationship and attachment and investment in these characters is there, and tragedy ensues, and I'm sorry, but the writers of Star Wars, everyone involved, they can write tragedy like nobody's business. Like, as I mentioned, crying in fetal position during the Clone Wars finale. If we're heading on a similar course with the Bad Batch finale here, which, again, I have hopes, like, go for it.
Keep cooking that pot.
If they can try to top that and recreate those emotions, like, I am not opposed. But if that's where it's heading, like, that's what is so epic about Star Wars, and why some of the best content that I think is so well received is when it's emotional and tragic and heartbreaking, because it just rings throughout the entire fandom. And those are some of the most, as you mentioned, you know, Revenge of the Sith is one of the fave, you know, unanimously.
And Empire Strikes Back.
Exactly.
That's another one where the villains win.
Exactly. So
those are, if you poll Star Wars fandom, favorite Star Wars movie, those two.
Yeah.
Of all demographics, I think confidently can say it's those two movies. And what do they have in common? The villains win. It's dark. People are losing limbs. Some people are losing their heads. Some people are getting their lungs lit on fire. Some people are literally their entire bodies on fire and burnt to a crispy toast. People are dying. And family ties end in tragedy.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of incest in there too.
What the heck? Okay. Jesus, what the? I tune out for 1 second. All right, poll positions, everybody. You know how it is. We always end Dork Discourse with a good little poll roundup, summarize the conversation. So here we are. I'm going to pose to you guys the same question I just asked Tom. More excited for Bad Batch, option number 1, or Avatar: The Last Airbender, option number 2, just in case it's still glitching out for some of you guys. I know for some reason it wouldn't show up in some of your guys' chats. You could see, you had the vote option, but you couldn't see what the prompt or the answers were, so... Granted, I wouldn't be shocked if this is potentially skewed, because I know most of my content on here is Star Wars themed. I'm only just branching into Avatar with, you know, the Korra reactions and whatnot, and I will certainly be doing reactions to the live-action Netflix adaptation. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I've never actually reacted to Bad Batch before, but I will be reacting here. It's the final season, and if it is gonna kick things into high gear and get a little dark, get a little more serious and intense, faster, more intense, then I definitely want to capture my reaction. So stay tuned. We're gonna be staying up late tonight. We got a 3-episode premiere.
Yeah, very big week, folks. I'll also disclaim that was a joke.
About the incest?
Yes.
Jesus.
DORK Discourse is not.
We don't support that.
We're not incest advocates here.
I think anyone who has seen my
just be perfectly clear. I think the message was sent across based on the chat response here.
Anyone who's seen my House of the Dragon reactions knows how I feel about that.
Too.
So
we can
I
talk
think
freely about incest. The House of Dragon is one of the most popular shows on the planet, and it is founded on incest.
Oh my god.
Literally, the foundation of that whole world is incest. It's all incest. Nothing but incest.
That doesn't mean we have to condone it. We don't condone it.
Yes.
Ooh. Charlie says, careful for the comment section on your next few episodes of Korra for spoilers. Oh, Schnikes. All right, yes, I'm actually hoping to. We're going to wrap up here. I'm maybe going to go film a quick reaction to the final trailer that they just dropped for Avatar. And then maybe if I can, I did film yesterday my reaction to the next few episodes of Korra. And so I am going to try to maybe post that tonight before I'm staying up till 3 a.m. probably this evening, y'all, filming my Bad Batch reactions and whatnot. So between now and then, I'm going to try to post my next Korra reactions because I could not wait. You guys were really hyping it up. So I did it like first thing this week. I was like, I can't wait. I have to do this.
We got 9 votes, 17 people watching right now. So
18 according to this.
Let's get it to
half of you haven't made up your minds.
Yeah, let's get it to at least 10. Let's get an even 10 votes here. So for those who haven't voted, are you more excited for Bad Batch, or ATLA stands for Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yes, I should have. I figured if you're a fan, you probably know. But
while we wait for the next vote, let's do a closing
oh my goodness.
End roll additional sponsorship announcement. So for those who may have missed the announcement in the beginning of the stream, the art division of Catherine LaSalle LLC has there's another piece of artwork in anticipation of the Netflix show coming up this week. So this is the Banished Prince, available now on catherinelasalle.com/store. So for those interested, looking for some additional wall decor, Banished Prince is here.
Yeah.
And I know you teased it a little bit. Coming here in the near future, there could be a sister Prince.
Stay tuned.
So
I'm about to be kicking in high gear, folks. We got a lot, especially if Avatar is dropping. Oh, we have 10 votes and a perfect split. End it. Why do we always end? We always have a perfect 50-50 end. Or I just think it's so satisfying, so I always end it whenever we hit 50-50. When we have a majority of the votes in. I just think it's so funny. But yeah, I mean, I'm equally excited for both. Yes, Bad Batch is coming out tonight, midnight Pacific time, and then T-minus 24 hours after that. I believe all 8 episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender will come out on Netflix, and I think it'll be there by midnight Pacific time, the 22nd. So, I think. So, yes. Kicking things into high gear. I'm super excited. And going forward for Dork Discourse here, we'll have more to talk about in the realm of Star Wars. I know we've had to branch out and discuss some other things and kind of grasp for some topics week after week here, but we'll definitely be covering the Bad Batch, covering Avatar, covering Dune. Dune's coming up as well. We have so much to talk. We have so much to be talking about. It's gonna be a good month up in store. Good week. T-minus till midnight tonight. 5.5 hours. Yep. We've got a good week in store. 50-50. I love democracy.
And what? If you have that same poll next week, the answer is going to be pretty much overwhelmingly Bad Batch, because Avatar's already going to be completely out.
This is true.
And we're going to have already seen it.
This is true.
Bad Batch will, for better or worse, will continue on here for the next few months.
I think it's going to be for the better.
Yep.
So stay tuned, everybody. I am going to be streaming with Alex, I believe. I don't think Zach's going to be able to join us. We are going to be going live for Evil Ewok. We're bringing back our pre-game little episodes, streaming an hour before the Bad Batch drops. So I believe we will be going live at 11 p.m. Pacific time. I know that is an awful time, a horrific time for the rest of you guys. But if you're a night owl Pacific time and you don't have to wake up too early tomorrow, feel free to come join us. We'll be here live on the channel. You can now catch Evil Ewok here on my channel, as well as ADHD. Don't forget, Dork Discourse. We are every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific time. And we'll catch you guys again here next week. But until then, thank you guys so much. Solid Dune. I know, that was really impressive.
Thanks.
Dune, especially since Tom's been concerned that he lost his falsetto capabilities. He had a really bad, almost like tonsillitis or something. You had something. Laryngitis. He had a severe loss of his voice this fall, and since then he hasn't.
The night before our wedding.
Yeah.
I've not been able to hit
the same high notes
that I could previously hit. So super weird. Yeah. All right, before we go, one more poll.
What?
One more poll.
Are
Incest, yes or
Oh,
no?
Jesus. Oh my God. On that note, thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys again very, very soon.
Yes.
See you guys in a few hours if you're still awake. Peace, love, Bad Batch. Bye, friends. See you guys tonight.